So, now know the difference between dilute and dense system. Dilute and dense system. The system can be divided into two categories, one is dilute, other is dense. So, what is the difference between these two? System is material, any material can be classified into two categories, one is dense, other is dilute. Then which is dense and which is dilute? If here is a particle, here is another particle, distance is far away, whether they are interacting in a well organized manner or inorganized manner, they will interact, but how? How will they interact? If the distance is far away, more than the atomic dimension. If it is atomic, it is condensed matter, right. If it is atomic dimension, then it is condensed matter, and every condensed matter is dense system. They are not dilute. Condensed matter means dense system, may it be soft or hard. Once condensed, it is dense. Then now what is a dilute system? When the particles are far away, which are much more higher length order in comparison to the atomic dimension, like this, let this is your R, R is much more greater than 1 angstrom, 1 angstrom is the atomic dimension or 0.1 nanometer, right. Then the interaction between these two particles is not that strong. They are interacting no doubt, but the interaction is not that strong when they are very close, like condensed matter, right. When in case of condensed matter, particles are very close, hence interaction is better in comparison to when they are far away, right. Means if there is no interparticle interference, then they are called as dilute system, like this. If they are not interacting, definitely there is interaction, but that interaction is very very weak, negligible, right. If such thing happens, then that system is called as a dilute system, but condensed matter is dense system. Then obviously, when you are telling dilute system, which are involved there in a system? They are the particles. Particle involvement is a must. Material must have particles, then only it is dilute, and those particles are far away from each other, right. Then another property that these particles are not at rest. Particles are there far away from each other, and again they are not at rest, they are moving randomly, right. The particles are moving randomly, then that system can be considered to be a dilute system. These properties are must. When there is no interparticle interference, we are giving emphasis only on the particles, and the particles are not at rest, but they are moving randomly, then the system is considered to be a dilute system, right. So, if I will take some solution, in that solution this is a protein solution, you are dissolving protein in some solution, then what kind of system it is? Dense or dilute? Or any solution you can take, protein is an example, but when you will tell it is dilute and when it is dense, can it be dense or not first? A solution. Solution means particles must be there. Without particle, you cannot take it as a dilute or dense system. But when it is dilute, the particles are far away, so that there is no interparticle interference. Within the particle, there is no interference, right. Then now tell if there is a protein solution, protein particles are there and they are suspended in a solvent, which will not dissolve that protein, but it is solvent, it is floating. Then what kind of system it is? It is a dilute system, right. Like that many particles are there which are not dissolved, but suspended, dispersed. Dispersion, suspension is different than dissolution. Dissolve means it will break, but there is no chance of breaking here, right. Like if you put sodium chloride in water, it dissolves, right. The difference between dissolve and dispersion are different. Dissolve means they will break up and mix up, that is dissolved, but when it is remaining as it is, but moving, then it is dispersion. It is dispersing in the solvent, and if you take such dispersion phenomena keeping a particle in a solvent, then it is a dilute system, right. that can be treated to be a dilute system. So, obviously, if it is not having these properties, then that is a dense system. Dense means that is condensed matter. All condensed matter are coming in this category. Generally, all solids are having that behavior which you call as the condensed matter. But when the particles are suspended or dispersed in a solvent in such a way that there is no interparticle interference, right, particle interaction is not there, then that system is called as a dilute system. So, this is the difference between dilute and dense system. Now the question is where is the contrast, whether you can get a contrast here or not, because suppose you are going to do the scattering experiment with such a solution which is dilute, right. Suppose you are going to do the scattering experiment with that solution which is dilute, then whether there is scattering or not. Like that many particles are there, I am showing one, but they are far away from each other, so that there is no direct interaction between them. Particles are dispersed in a solvent. Then can we go for scattering experiment or not? You know the requirements for a scattering experiment. What are the requirements? For a scattering experiment, what are the requirements? The requirement is the contrast, right? Requirement is the contrast. Without contrast, there is no scattering. So, if it is X-ray scattering, then whether it can go for X-ray scattering or not. You know the reason for X-ray scattering, when there will be X-ray scattering, right. Now, tell whether there will be X-ray scattering from this kind of solution or not. X-ray scattering is responsible for what kind of scattering? Contrast, electron density. Now, tell whether there is electron density difference or not. Particle has some electron density, right. Particle has some electron density and its surrounding has some other electron density. Surrounding is the solvent, right. Surrounding is the solvent. So, particle is having one kind of electron density and its surrounding is having another kind of electron density. So, there is difference. So, there is contrast. Electron density difference is there, right. Hence, there will be X-ray scattering, because electron density difference is a must, otherwise there is no X-ray scattering. So, there is a good contrast, good or bad, that depends again what is its surrounding, right. Good or bad, how will you decide? Because if the difference is more, contrast is good. So, what is the electron density of the particle and what is the electron density of the solvent? If there is a big difference, then it is a good contrast. But if there is no much difference, then it is a bad contrast. If bad contrast, not good scatterer, good contrast, good scatterer, right. So, when there is good contrast means electron density difference in the two phases, here the phases are particle and the solvent, then there will be contrast, hence there will be scattering, right. So, now if you take that kind of system from where the X-ray gets scattered, then you know the relation for intensity, right. Intensity is nothing but a Fourier transform of what? This is a function of what? S or Q or 2 theta, right. Intensity is directly related to what? Electron density difference, contrast. That is why I am told, if the contrast is not good, intensity cannot be good, hence scattering process is not good. Unless you get good intensity, it cannot be a good scattering experiment. So, to have good intensity, it should have good contrast. If it is X-ray, electron density contrast; if it is neutron, nuclear density contrast; if it is light, refractive index contrast. But when there is scattering, there must be contrast. So, this intensity now, you know the relation. What is the intensity relation? In general, you are writing it as J k, then rho r j, rho r k, these are vectors, then What the rest relation? Besides these two, what the other function is? Exponential e to the power I s dot r k j j k, then I is there or not? You check the relation I have given. No, it is not there, right? I is not there. S dot r j k, right? So, this is the mathematical expression for the intensity in terms of S vector, and you know the meaning of all the vectors: S vector, R j vector, R k vector, R j k vector, right. So, now the intensity is expressed in the function of x in this manner. Then, now the question comes, what is this, how this function can be explained, whatever is there after summation can be explained, or particularly you tell about this function exponential only, right, e to the power. So, no doubt you can tell now intensity is a Fourier transform or not, it is a Fourier transform relevant to what, of what function, distance, right, distance. Then now mathematically what it will be. So, if you take a particle, let us, this is a particle, let us say there is only one particle dispersed in the solution and X-ray gets scattered. So, you will get the intensity, right, and the intensity is a function of this also, right. Then now tell what is your k, what is your j, what this r k means, what this r j means, because they are involved here. You are taking only one particle, still you are writing it is r k r j, r k j. What does it mean? So, if you take a particle, what, tell me about the electron density, is it isotropic or anisotropic? Electron density property. Electron density of a particle is isotropic or anisotropic, because if it has different phase it may change, right, but if it is same phase, protein same phase, right. If you take any other particle, whatever material it may be, but the electron density will be same throughout, hence isotropic. But if it varies from point to point within the particle, it is anisotropic, right. Anisotropic means same behavior property is not there in all directions, but if it is same, it is isotropic, right. So, particles are having generally isotropic behavior so far as the electron density is concerned. No, I am not telling orbit case, I am telling electron density. But you are considering only to that particular atom. I am telling whole system, electron density distribution. Electron density distribution, you are concentrating only on one atom, I am not concentrating on one atom, all the electrons involved there is giving you the electron density. If the electron density distribution is same throughout in the material particle, then it is isotropic, right. So, unless there is different phase, it is all the time isotropic so far as electron density is concerned. So, with respect to the electron density, it is isotropic when there is a single phase, right. Then now tell, and it is proportional to what? The intensity is now tell proportional to what? In terms of that, you tell it is isotropic and proportional to what? If it is one particle, or there is second particle, there is third particle, there is fourth particle, like many particles may be there, but all are having same electron density, right, and hence isotropic. Therefore, this intensity is proportional to what? Scattering from a single particle. If you know many particles, intensity will be more or not, because all are isotropic and there are many particles, So, obviously, intensity is more when many particles are there, right. If you take a single particle, whatever intensity you will get, if you take 2 particles, then more or less, more, 3 again more, 4 again more. So, you can write this intensity I s is proportional to number of particles, right. How many number of particles are there? Or you can take single particle. If you, then now question is, if you take a single particle, then how will you get that contribution of electron density? Because electron density is giving you the intensity, right. So, if you take a particle, let us say for example, this is a particle and here is a point k, here is a point j, this is your arc j k or not. Within the particle you are choosing points r k, r j are what? Distance of the particle or point from origin. You have, there will be an origin, and from that origin the distance, suppose here is my origin, then this is your what? R j, and this is r k, and this is r j k, right. So, when you take one point to another point which are rich in electrons, hence electron density, but still they differ from j to k point, right. Then how will you get the contribution of electron density with this intensity? You have to find out the averaging, right. Average over what? Whole particle or not? The averaging must be over the whole particle. Then how can you write that averaging? The averaging of e to the power s dot r j k average over the whole particle. This function same thing, but you have to go for the averaging over the, averaging is over is what? Averaging you are telling, once you are telling averaging, you should be very careful. Averaging is over what? Averaging is over all orientations, right. Averaging is over all orientations, that is why it is omega, it stands for orientation. Averaging is over all orientations in the particle. Then now you tell what is the average value of this quantity, of this exponential function. How can you write the averaging in all orientations in mathematical form? What is the value? It will be sin of s r j k divided by s r j k. Averaging over all orientations can be expressed as this value, sin of s r j k divided by s r j k. These are magnitudes. S r j k is a magnitude, and you know the value, what is s and what is r j k, right. And this is nothing but your this function. In all orientations you are getting the function. So, now you can replace this term by this, right. Now, the intensity can be expressed as what? Summation over j k rho r j rho j k r rho k, then this function or not, sin of r j k sorry s r j k divided by s r j k, because you are this is the average value of what? This one, this function. Hence, the intensity now can be explained by this multiplied by this, right, sin s r j k divided by s r j k. Then now ultimately finally what you will get? How can you write this mathematical expression again? If let us say you know about this s, what is this s vector or s value? Scattering vector. You know the magnitude. Magnitude is how much? Either you may write it is as 4 pi sin theta by lambda, and r j k is known, right. S is fixed. For a particular value of s, there will be intensity, and with respect to s, intensity varies. If S is different, intensity is different. That is why it is a function and you are plotting the graph between S and I, or not. When you are plotting a graph, what is the graph? Graph is S versus I. So, for different value of S, there is different intensity. That is why the graph is coming like this. So, that tells that for different values of S, there is different intensities. Then now the same thing can also be written as I S equal to, if it is uniformly distributed, then you can write it as integration. A function is coming here P r, then sine of S r divided by sine only S r into d r, right. Why sum is now replaced by integration? Under which circumstance you can change the summation to integration? Continuous. It is continuous. Your system is continuous or discontinuous in electron density? Continuous, right. So, now the sum is replaced by integration. That is why the r is from where to where? 0 to infinite, all values are possible, right. R can be 0, R can be any value. So, the integration limit is from 0 to infinite, right. Then now the question is, what then this P r is? That is also a function of r, right. That is also a function of r, and that function is called as the pair distance distribution function. That is why P, pair distance distribution function, right. P means it is pair distance distribution function, that is your P. How this electron density distributed over the particle, it is explained by that function which you call as the pair distance distribution function. So, now you tell this I is proportional to this P r or not, right. I is now proportional to that P r. If P r is more, then your intensity is accordingly more, right. But now another question now comes, whether this P r is in real space or reciprocal space, that is the question. I s is in real or reciprocal space? Reciprocal space, right. But P r, that is the real information. So, remember, intensity can be written in terms of P r, real space information. P r is a real space information that we need. We need what? From scattering experiment we need real information, and that real information carrier is P r, that carries the real information about the system. So, this is called as the distance, pair distance distribution function. And what is your I s now? This I s, if I will write in this way, then what I can write this I s? You know P r is involved there, right. Then what is your I s? If P r is the pair distance distribution function which is real, then what about this I? It is the Fourier transform of P r or not, right. I s is the Fourier transform of P r. So, how intensity and real distance distribution function is related, given by this relation. So, the intensity is in Fourier space, but distribution function is in real space, and they are related to each other by Fourier transform. So, if you know P r, you can know intensity. If you know intensity, you can know P r, vice versa. That is why intensity plays important role, because the real information is carried in P r. right. If intensity is not good, your pair distance distribution function is not good enough. Although one in real space, other in reciprocal space, but intensity is if not good, your pair distance distribution function is also not giving good information about the real system that we need. We need real information, and for real information PR should be well defined, and PR well defined means what should be good? Intensity must be good enough. That is why intensity is the real structural information carrier, right. Intensity is the real structural information carrier, which is a Fourier transform of PR, right. Intensity is a Fourier transform of pair distance distribution function, but in which space? Intensity is in reciprocal space, but PR is in real space. So, now you can understand how intensity and why intensity is so important to know the structure, right. How and why intensity is very important to know the structure, because we need real information about structure which is carried in PR, but IR is related to PR by a Fourier transform, right. So, now if some intensity is there, can you convert it to PR? So, obviously, PR is the again Fourier transform of intensity or not. If you need PR, then what to do? It is the inverse transform of intensity. That means, you are coming to real space. Intensity is in reciprocal space, again you are taking inverse, means you are coming back to real space and you got the real information, right. So, now if you write PR, then now write the mathematically what is your PR? It is intensity, right. What is PR equal to? PR equal to how much? One thing you see, when we are telling scattering, and usually it is known that it towards lower S value intensity is more or less, more. As S increases, it drastically goes down, right. So, why it happens so? When S is small, intensity is more, right, but when S is more, intensity is small, inversely proportional. Then why it happens? At small value of S, what happens? So, the intensity is more, but at large value again what happens? So, the intensity is less. It is the nature behavior of intensity, right. So, then at small value what happens? To give more intensity, at large value it what happens? It gives small intensity, because these intensities are coming from where? These intensities are usually coming from what? Interference, right. What kind of interference? Constructive or destructive? Constructive, not destructive. Constructive interference gives this intensity, right. So, when you see, when suppose here is the system, this is the angle and this is your 2 theta or S whatever it may be. Now, tell at smaller angle what happens there? Constructive interference more or less? Obviously more, that is why intensity is good, right. As you go away, destruction comes and superimpose with constructive. So, little bit loss is starting there. As you go away from lower angle onwards, destructive interferes to spoil the intensity. So, it goes down, down, down. So, at lower angles constructive interference is good, so intensity is good, but as the angle goes on increasing, the constructive interference is disturbed by more destructive, hence intensity goes down, right. Here also there is destructive, but who is superimposing? In lower angle, which is superimposing over what? Constructive is superimposing over destructive, but if you go away, then the reverse case. right. Destructive is superimposing with the constructive, hence intensity will down or up, it will be down and it is the nature of scattering, right. It is the nature of scattering. At lower angle intensity is more, at larger angle the intensity is less. So, then now if this is the pattern and generally next slide. If you plot a graph, generally it goes like this, it is your S, suppose you are writing in what is the unit? Nanometer inverse, right. S is a distance measured in nanometer inverse and the intensity is in arbitrary units, AU, arbitrary units, where this is not absolute unit of intensity. Then how it goes? It goes like this. Actually, there will be fluctuations toward this end, it goes like that. The same pattern or not? At lower angle intensity is more, if you go towards higher value then intensity is less, right. Then, so now can you translate it into pair distance distribution function? What will be the plot? That is important. If this is the intensity, what is its pair distance distribution function? You know the relation, right. You know the relation, now plot. If you plot a graph between PR versus R, now it is R, not PR, real space, right. This is reciprocal space intensity, but now you are coming to real space information that we need, and this process is nothing but Fourier transform. Either way you can go from this side to that side to this side, only Fourier transform, right. If PR is with you, you can generate your intensity, if intensity is with you, you can generate your PR. This is real information, this is reciprocal space information, and mathematical relation is known to you, how they are related. Then now tell, if this is the intensity, how this PR function will look like. You know the mathematical relation, right. You know the mathematical relation of PR. You write what is your expression for PR, that will tell you. What is your PR you write first, then from there you tell what will be the values. So, if this will be written as IS, which is equal to integration 0 to infinite PR, then sin SR divided by SR dr, right. And if you multiply by a constant, let us say it is multiplied by 4 pi, nature behavior will never change, it will remain as it is or not, only magnitude will little bit change, but it is a constant. Why it is multiplied? Because it is easy to mathematically convert to PR, that is why. Then the PR will be nothing but equal to 1 by 2 pi square S equal to 0 to infinite S square I S, then sin S R divided by S R ds. This is S square, I S sin S R by S R ds. So, this integration is over what? S, scattering vector, right. This is over scattering vector, and thus the limit is from S equal to R to infinite, but here it is R equal to 0 to infinite, right. So, this is the Fourier transform of what? Intensity. So, the real function, that is pair distance distribution function, is now Fourier transform of intensity and written in that way, right. Then now how it will look like? Let us say it is 0, then it will look like this, and this is your maximum distance that can be resolved from the experiment, d maximum. right. When it will toss, the PR value is coming to 0, started from 0, again come back to 0, and that value is nothing but the maximum distance resolved from the scattering experiment. That you can know how much distance that scattering experiment can resolve, d maximum, maximum distance, because it is distance distribution function. So, what maximum distance it can resolve, that is given from this value. At what value of r means what? At what distance, maximum distance, this scattering experiment is good enough, because all the time you are going for the distance, length order scale. What length order scale it can resolve by that scattering experiment, and that you can know from here, right. So, this is reciprocal space information, but this is real space information. Then actually now we tell what do you mean by the physical meaning of this PR, what it tells basically. You know the function now, what it basically tells. What is the physical significance of that pair distance distribution function? How often, which distance, you see how it varies, how often it changes and which distance changes, right. The physical significance of pair distance distribution function is how often, which distance, how often it changes and which distance changes, both are there in this PR. Then if you go for more details about this PR, then what about this function, this one? How can you write sin SR by SR? You know the trigonometrical series, you write the series sin SR by SR. How can you write that? If I write sin SR by SR, then what will be the values? Series, it is 1 minus S square R square by 6 plus S fourth R fourth by 120 and so on. Then now you can approximate your intensity IS approximated by the series, right. So, then how much you can write? PR into integration 0 to infinite, then PR into 1 minus S square R square by 6 plus rest terms are negligible, higher terms are neglected, that is why it is approximation, right, and then multiplied by dr, of course. Then it is how much, which is approximated as 0 to infinite PR dr, then minus S square by 6 0 to infinite P R R square dr, or not, two terms if you take it, there are two integrations, or not, here there are two terms. So, first term is what? PR dr, one is there, and the second term is S square by 6 PR R square dr. Then next is yes. So, now you know this is a term and this is another term. So, integration from 0 to infinite PR then R square dr, there is a term here, right. Then so, this term is related directly to Rg, you know, radius of gyration. In mechanics you learn what is radius of gyration. Radiation of gyration will inform us about what? You know about the radius of gyration in case of gravitation, right. Center of mass, all those are related to radius of gyration, but that what is that distance? What do you mean by radius of gyration? What is that distance? In mechanics, what you are telling radius of gyration? You know the when there is a system or body, there is an axis, then what do you mean by moment of gyration, radius of gyration? Square the distance of different particles from the axis, take the average, then they take the square root. That is the radius of gyration or not? Rg. So, similarly, if you write this r g here, then what is that average distance? Same, called as the radius of gyration. Then what will be this distance? It is half integration 0 to infinite p r r square dr divided by integration 0 to infinite p r dr, right. So, this value is nothing but your r g. R g means radius of gyration. So, if a particle is there which is spherical, then what will happen? Elliptical, what will happen? Ellipsoidal, what will happen? You can get the idea from this radius of gyration, what kind of particles are involved there. So, size and shape information is carried in that radius of gyration, and that is a real information we need, right. That is a real information that we need. Then, so now you see how this radius of gyration is related to pair distance distribution function. Radius of gyration is related to pair distance distribution function by this relation, right. Then how it will inform you? What information is there in radius of gyration then, right. Then what kind of information you can collect from radius of gyration? It will tell you both size and shape. About the size, shape informations are there in this radius of gyration. So, now Guinier has approximated, next slide. Guinier has explained that this I s is approximated to be 0 to infinite p r, then 1 minus r g square by 6 s square, other terms are there, then dr, right. Intensity is now approximated by this relation in terms of r g, right, radius of gyration. Then again that Guinier finally approximated to be equal to not equal to approximated I 0 e to the power minus r g square divided by 3 s square. This is a very important relation, right. That is given in that book. You can go through that book, that is called as Guinier and Fernet 1955. That expression was derived by Guinier in 1955. Guinier relation for r g, radius of gyration. That book is there in library, if you want you can see. Guinier and Fernet, small angle X scattering by Guinier and Fernet, G U I N I E R and F O U R N E T 1955. Radius of gyration square. This is radius of gyration square by 3 s square. This is s square. So, now if you plot a graph between ln I s in this direction and s square nanometer minus 2, then how the graph will look like? What is the nature and behavior of the graph? It will be a straight line like this, and from there you can now calculate what is your radius of gyration, right. The slope is related to radius of gyration. Because you see, if you write this ln I s is nothing but equal minus r g square by 3 s square plus ln I 0, right. This is ln logarithm. So, this tells this is a straight line, right, y equal to m x plus c. So, now you can tell, if I will tell like this, then this is your intercept, C ln I 0, and what is the slope? Right. So, R G you are getting or not? So, therefore, now this is, you see, R G is the historically the first structural parameter. It is the history, is the first structural parameter determined from SAX, small angle X-ray scattering, by Guinier-Farnett in the year 1955. It is the first structural distance. So, it tells direct information or indirect information now? It is direct. Once you know R G, direct information, you know about it, because that is real distance or virtual distance? Real distance, and that is first time measured by Guinier-Farnett in the year 1955 from small angle X-ray scattering data. Then now tell what about this I 0? What is this I 0? Because I 0 is involved here now. What is that I 0? It depends on what? What that value is? It is proportional to n square. N is the electron number, right? How many electrons are involved there in the particle, or particle concentration? If many are there, n is obviously more, right? If concentration is more, what do you mean by concentration? Many particles. If many particles, many electrons. So, this I 0 is proportional to that. So, that the absolute measurement allow one to determine the, from here, why this will give you the information about molecular weight. You can directly calculate the molecular weight of the system, right. If you know the absolute value of this I 0, that will tell you the molecular weight of that sample. Then again, how it is approximated? It is given in example. You see, there are three different kinds of solution. One is ideal of particles like this. My particles are here in this way. Then it tells the graph goes like this, right. Then it is actually a protein sample BSA. Example is protein sample. BSA is a well known protein whose graph goes like that. Here, what do you mean by ideal particle solution? Dilute system. Particles are not interacting with each other, right. That is why I told you ideal means what? Theoretical or practical? There will be interaction, but it is very very weak, right. And similarly, when there is particle interference, then it is called as repulsive particle interference, repulsive particle interaction. If there, then it goes like this: here is a particle, here is a particle, here is a particle, here is a particle, here. So, there will be repulsion all the time, every time, everywhere there is repulsion. They are interacting in this way, like. So, interaction is there, but the nature of the plot will go like this. You see the difference, right. If the particles are interacting in a repulsive manner, then the graph will look like this. And if they are actively interacted, then again the graph will be, it will look like this, like this. So, now then what it tells basically, these are called as Guinier plot, right. These are called as Guinier plot. So, what information you are collecting from the Guinier plot? Guinier plot will tell you about what? How the proteins are interacting, right. How the proteins are interacting, you can know it from this type of graph, which is called as the Guinier plot. So, from there you will get the radius of gyration and also know how the particles are interacting, because if this is interacting in repulsive manner, this is the nature. If it comes, obviously tells that the particles are interacting with each other in a opposite way, repulsive. And when it is strong interaction, it goes like this. So, that will classify the nature and behavior of proteins. It is an example of protein BSA that is given. BSA is a well known protein, it is taken as reference, right. So, this way we can find out the parameters relevant to real structure. Next class we will go for the rest things.